Our next panel, Climate Action and the Refugee Crisis, will explore how the climate crisis complicates our response. Our moderator again is the truly brilliant Mitzi Janelle Tan, Global Choices Arctic Angel and climate justice activist. Over to you, Mitzi.
Hello, everyone. It's so glad to be here again. And today, right now, I have an amazing panel with me. I have first Yusuf Baluch, a climate justice activist who is also an indigenous climate justice activist. He started his activism after experiencing the first-hand impacts of the climate crisis in his community. He is an organizer with Fridays for Future, where he organizes with Fridays for Future Balochistan, and he has been campaigning against fossil fuel companies and banks such as Standard Chartered. And next we have Emmanuel Jal, who is a musician, actor, and activist. From his start in life as a child soldier in the war-torn region of southern Sudan in the early 1980s, Emmanuel has come through a huge number of struggles during his life to become a successful and acclaimed recording artist and peace ambassador. His greatest passion is his charity, which he founded in 2009, GUA Africa, which supports those affected by war and poverty from South Sudan. And the charity has trained and educated South Sudanese refugees to become first-class professionals in medicine, law, and education. You can look them up at gua-africa.org. And next we have Barth Mwanza, a Congolese refugee and co-chair of the UNHCR's Global Youth Advisory Council. And last but not least, we have Faith Casina, communications officer and spokesperson for UNHCR in the East Horn of Africa and Great Lakes region. Faith in her professional experience, Faith has worked in several countries in the region, including South Sudan, Somalia, and Ethiopia, that have seen firsthand the impacts of climate-related crises such as drought and floods. She has also witnessed how local communities, including the youth, leading efforts to better prepare and mitigate the impacts of climate change and hold decision makers to account in climate action. I'm so happy to have everyone on this panel for such an important topic, which isn't being talked about enough, really. So to start, let's go ahead and explain to us the impact that climate change is having and exacerbating the fact that people are becoming refugees. Anyone can start.
Yeah, great. I think I can maybe jump in since everyone is quiet. Yeah, for example, I can take the example of the camp where I live in. I'm living in Tongogara refugee camp. We've been at least experiencing so many disasters. Maybe I can just try to mention a few. We've been experiencing cyclones. Yeah, so the first one, it was Cyclone Idai. It was Cyclone Shalena, Cyclone Eloise. And then when you see those cyclones happen in different camps, so you will see that it's destroying a lot of things. Like there are some houses which are really damaged. There are toilets which are also destroyed, and sometimes it even affects education, because when it's raining for 1 week, you can see that children, young people, they cannot be able to go to school, and then it can also affect health. And there are even some people who are really deciding, to leave the place where they are living, because you know that most of the camps, they are in climate hotspots, so they will really, look forward to look for safe space. For example, go to maybe nearest town, and then that's why it's creating so many displacements. So this is my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Yusuf, you've spoken about floods and how this has impacted your community in Balochistan before. Would you like to speak more about this, on how the climate crisis is exacerbating the refugee crisis? I think you're on mute, Yusuf. Thank you. It looks like we're having some trouble with Yusuf's audio. So while they're fixing that, Emmanuel or Faith, would you like to jump in on this?
Yeah, I can jump in. I can just give some quick stats in relation to what Beth has said. 90% of refugees come from countries that are on the front line of the climate emergency. So when I say front lines, I mean countries themselves that are dealing with different impacts of climate change. We continue to see how climate change has increased the frequency and the severity of weather events such as droughts and floods. In South Sudan, for example, since last year, or at least for the better part of last year, there was what people have called biblical proportions of floods. Somalia, parts of Ethiopia and Kenya are now currently experiencing a ravaging drought, basically, that has, basically stripped people off their abilities to rely on themselves in terms of growing their own food, rearing their own livestock. And so people have been forced, and we continue to see more and more people forced to flee their homes in search of security and safety in the face of this climate related threats. We also know that a majority of those people that have been displaced, whether refugees as well as internally displaced people, are also struggling themselves with everyday impacts of climate change. So we're seeing, the effects of climate change just really sweeping across the board, both for people who've been forced to flee and people who've opened their doors generously to host those that have been displaced.
And that's why we have to make sure that terms such as climate refugee is something that we have actual definitions for, because I don't think we have an internationally recognized definition for climate refugee. And when we don't have that, then we don't have mechanisms to keep our climate refugees safe, because they are not something that exists in the international sense, like officially. Yusuf, do you want to try if your microphone is working now? Okay, it's still not, I think. But I think that is one of the reasons why a lot of our climate activists from the Global South and climate refugees, Yusuf being one himself, are not able to participate in a lot of our conferences and not have their voices on the table, because technical difficulties and internet connection, these are things that put barriers in our in the way that we're able to participate in these spaces. So while Yusuf is trying to figure that out, Emmanuel, would you want to talk about how you see climate exacerbating the refugee crisis and any predictions going forward?
The climate change really has a huge impact. I can talk about what happened in South Sudan, or I can go back to how climate used to impact. I remember growing up as a kid, during the drought season, where the crops don't do well due to the climate issue, the tribes will raid themselves. You go and steal cows from the other place and take food. Now I see where I come from, 90% of the land has been occupied by water, especially where my dad come from, or my home. I'll probably call it my clan, or my clan. The whole place is covered by water. I mean, people are hiding themselves in small little islands where you find snakes, all the living things that are around that cannot stay in water goes there. The livestock, we talk about the cows. A lot of cows died because they could not stay in the water for a long time. Goats. There's some other wild animals that are used to water and they could swim for longer distance. They probably find a place to go to. What I see now, there's also tension in terms of other tribes when they see the climate refugees coming into their territory. They're in fear of creating fights, so they want them to go back to where they come from, where they're going to go in the water. So the government now of South Sudan, which is mostly trying to get peace work happening, but these climate refugees don't get attention. So it's a big challenge. And the way I look at it, we're in a difficult situation. The story I can explain that could probably fit the climate change is, in Africa, if you want to catch a monkey, there's a way you catch a monkey. You put nuts in a gourd, and then what you do is you eat the nuts and then you leave. And what a monkey will do is the monkey will come and try to eat the nuts. Then you run quickly toward the monkey. And the monkey will close the hand inside to hold the nuts. And you can actually beat the monkey and would not let the nuts go. The monkey can die or being cut. It wants to run, but it doesn't want to leave the nuts. And I feel that's how the world is. We have our own devices. We have invented things that are making our climate worse. We are trying to go to this space. We're enjoying this comfort. But the climate here is beating us, and we don't want to let go of this lifestyle that we have created. So we have a huge challenge in terms of the future, how we look at it. They're talking about some countries in the Arabian country will not be, people are not going to be able to live there. And the world seems to be quiet, not doing much about it. So I'm talking to who we are talking to, we're the convert. The challenge is, how do we go out there and convince most of the people there to know, and each one of them taking a step to making this climate change a big topic that everybody can do something about it.